Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conference. I hope that you guys had a great break, that you hydrated, used the washroom if you need to, hugged a puppy, I don't know, looked out the window, did something amazing. I spent the break nervously prepping myself and going, ma, ma, getting ready for this. I know that Jennifer gave you a little bit of a teaser of who I am. So my name is Shelly Grace, but a fun fact, my middle name is Grace, not because my parents go to church, but because they believe me gift. Believe the woman who birthed me giver, believe every one of my breaths a miracle. My mama once said I had fireflies trapped in my eyes the way they sparkle some days. And she's always told me that I'm so special, that every day she finds new reasons to love me. And although not blood, people say I look like her. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with looking like love in motion. And my mama, she would take a bullet for me. But most days she hides the guns before they find them, turns the gunpowder into fireworks and points to the sky and says, this is what my heart did the first day I saw you. This is bad turned good. This is abandonment turned adoption. This is lost and found. This is stranger turned mother. This is Grace. So as I said, my name is Shelly Grace. I use she, her pronouns. Beyonce is also, you can call me Beyonce if you want to. That's completely fine as well. I love that. Can't wait for her new album. And I'm a spoken word poet in Toronto. I also am a photographer sometimes, occasionally, not based on how often I use my camera, maybe. Um, and I do a lot of arts work and education as well. So I go into schools and libraries. I also have been lucky and honored enough to work on some amazing grants to challenge racism for Black and Indigenous poets, specifically within the Ontario space. Right now, I am a coordinator for this beautiful programming called Hip Hop Healing that's funded through Artreach. And we're just using hip hop, which is spoken word, which is street style, which is dancing. Hip hop is all these things, right? It's not just rap. I'm a poet, I'm a hip hop artist as a poet. And we're using that as a form of healing and really just working with some great young Black artists around Toronto, East York, Toronto, and doing some amazing work. But poetry has been this really incredible journey for me. Just a few months ago, I was honored enough to win Toronto Arts Foundation Breakthrough Artist Award. Still processing it. It's been a few months, still not real to me. Um, but I remember during the pandemic is when I really leaned into my art, right? The job disappeared and art became the job, and I was so honored. And it's really interesting when you realize the power of your voice, especially as a Black femme artist. And I was approached by this really cool group called Environmental Funders Canada to write a poem about Black and Indigenous voices being needed at environmental tables and environmental justice spaces. And I had just worked with this award-winning, amazing poet called Stephen Willis out of the States. YouTube him, he's absolutely amazing poet. He's done some movies and such as well. And I did this really complicated poem called a sestina, in which there's a certain set stanzas and the words repeat in every single stanza in a different order to give the sense of like urgency and chaos. And so I'm going to read that poem. And it's a persona poem in which I'm this beautiful bird in Canada talking about the urgency of our voices being at these tables. And I think this just shows us the challenges that we face as people of color in this country, challenges that we face in this world as we live in it. And so I will go into the poem. The gray jay was recently named Canada's national bird long after it should have been given the title, often overshadowed by its big blue brother or its part-time neighbor, the loon, indigenous to Canada and looked over. The gray jay speaks of what has happened to its beautiful Canada and its hope for the future. Many complain about how the bird will follow hunters and campers for food, however, is it not their home? The gray jay screams for its home to be respected while stressing the beauty in listening and community. They name me Canada's, like I wasn't here well before both this land and I had these English names listen. I've been here all along with this land for so long it has been my home. And they say naming me Canada's is an act of justice, but I'm still looking for something resembling justice, waiting for it to dig its roots into Canada, of the days we will be grounded when this can truly feel like home. And it used to be like that. Used to be so simple, so good before. I used to be with the land before I belonged to the land. Can't you hear me screaming, listen? Gray, yet I still sing the blues, can't you listen? Asking so desperately for something like freedom, something like justice. Justice for land does not exist without people, and justice for people does not exist without land. And don't we deserve that here? Or at least, isn't that something the land deserves in Canada? Isn't that something we have all dreamed of before? To feel completely honest, feel some sort of gentle when calling this home. I am just a bird, but I still dream of home. When the others chirp to say theirs, to say pray, to say hello, I listen to all those who came before, to all those fighting for justice, for all those who see something in this Canada, for all those who love this land. So you see, I can't be the only gray, the only middleman, the only protector of this land. You got to think of this home. Understand all the good and bad that is Canada. Got to learn to go outside of your comfort zone and listen, question what is Black and Indigenous voices heard but justice. Didn't I tell you how hard it is to be made small before? We got to learn to fly before we ever try to land. Have to learn how to be just, have to learn how to share this home. We must listen. We must be as nice as everyone thinks we are in Canada. We must act before there's nothing left of home, before the sky and the land gets too tired of us for not listening, having conversations that gray so many of us out, of unjust gestures, of a hopeless Canada. Are you listening? So that's that poem. And that poem was so fun to get into philanthropic and environmental spaces and just talk about the need for our voices at the table. I do it in the schools, I do it everywhere. And what's been really cool is this was a start of me doing a lot of exploration in my work. And part of that exploration, I got to work with this amazing group called Black Explorative Movement Canada, BSAM. And I started learning more about Afrofuturism, in which we talk about dystopias and utopias a lot, specifically through the work of Octavia E. Butler, who's an amazing, amazing writer. And I started thinking about utopias, and I've run a great series of workshops, which include working with youth to talk about dystopias and utopias within their real life and discussing how, you know, for example, within the art space, a specific art organization could be a utopia for one artist, and it could be my dystopia just because of how it is built out or how the treatment of Black femme artists are within that space. Both things can exist in the same world, right? And as we build our utopias and make action to build our utopias, we have to be very considerate that we're not retroactively building someone else's dystopia. So we go through that in the classes. We work on what's contributing to your dystopia. What would your utopia look like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like? Who's there? Is it winter? Not in mine ever. Like, we travel. In my utopia, we travel for like a week ski trip once a year, and that's it. There's only snow on the hill, only where you ski, not even on the drive up. It's very specific. And so I started doing a lot of utopia work in my own life, and I'm adopted, so I'm a transracial adoptee, Black adopted into a white family, and recently connected with my bio family and did this utopia imaginary futuristic piece about what it might be like to go to Jamaica and things be really well and reuniting with my family. And I talk about all the sensory parts of it. So I'll do that poem. Ended up going to Jamaica, and it was kind of like this poem, not exactly, but it was really beautiful. It's my first time home. Salt air mixed with saltwater tears, and the first breath in fills my lungs with memories unhad. And the ground is so sturdy, and the wind a hug, and my family is everywhere. my birthright of an island, my rock, steady. I left my fear of missing beats in Canada. In the islands, even things that arrive late are on time. And my hips, they become confident waves as we dance under the warm moon, and I see my smile reflected in similar faces, red stripe and ripe fruit with cousins. Comparing baby photos, and time is just time when it comes to family. In the islands, even people who arrive late are on time. And when I say I miss you to people we just met, have inside jokes within minutes, and my cousin Howard says, welcome home, and we step into my granduncle's house and we visit my grandfather's resting place. And I say I miss you to the man I've never met, will never meet, and I mean it. And somehow I know he misses me too. In the mountains, we feel great grandma there. With all her healing, waterfalls hold her memory. She once made a man walk again, apparently. And today, I know she made me believe again. My brothers, they're shy with their overseas sister of me. Learn I'm nothing like our mother, and how easily my goodbyes translate into see you soon. And they laugh at how slowly they have to speak for me to understand. And in that moment, Shelly translates into turtle as they try to douse their patois, and my aunties see their sister June and her made baby, but I become a welcome ghost, then a whole person. The Kerrs and the Davies, my origin story brought together through my mother's birth, all together laughing, friends becoming cousins, and family affairs and secrets become reunion reasons, sponsored, hopefully, by Ancestry DNA. And all these years later, in the islands, even families who meet late are perfectly on time. So that was this imagined utopia. And we bring that into, I think I started leaning into this utopia work with all this arts work and arts justice work I do, because that's what we're trying to build, right? That's why we're here today. We're trying to build up these pieces of utopia into this sector, the arts and culture sector in Toronto. And I've been able to be part of these very beautiful pockets of utopia. And that's what fuels me to be an artist. I'm going to do one last poem as I have just 3 minutes left. I always love to talk about the woman in my family, so this one is going to go out to my grandma Doris. Um, you know, my voice is not just my voice, it's a lineage of voices that come before me, blood or otherwise, adopted or biological. And my grandma Doris had 10 children. And so there's a lot of voice from her in me. And so this is a poem for her. And after this poem, Pamela, I will toss the mic over to you and I hope you can grab it. So this is for Doris. I feel sorry for those who have never had rhubarb juice, who have never seen the angle of their grandmother's elbow pouring in club soda to have homemade and homemade awaiting your laughter, to be gently nudged to leave all that drags you from present at the door and to even forget it on your way home. Fresh rhubarb from her garden grown by her hands, recipe passed down by her friend. Nellie's rhubarb juice translates into memories and full cups, sitting still for moments of hydration with multi-generational gestures, exclaiming at the hummingbirds on the other side of the window as we table everything that doesn't serve soul. I learned stillness in this house, and gentle hands as everything of value in the house became fragile, when Grandpa's memory became blurry and I turned into shadows. Imagine the joy of feeling seen by someone without sight. And Grandma lost time too. Years unhad with him, and Nellie became a yesterday instead of decades ago to her. And this summer, I bought the rhubarb, made the juice, and bought the club soda, elevated elbows, and Nellie's rhubarb juice translated into memories and half full cups. And I wonder why I never made this with Grandma. She didn't show me how to get ready. And this year, her house is on sale again. And I don't see a bird feeder. So many moments new owners missed out on, but they left her bookcases blue. But our photos aren't there. And just a few weeks ago, her younger reflection, who is my mother, talks about the scattering of my other grandma's ashes. And that happened today without me. Grief held and COVID did not make room for me. And so I went outside only to see a bird in the bird bath she made long ago, imprinted with a giant rhubarb leaf. And I know I learned from her how to have words and messages that will outlive me, that even if my memory fades, I will have left behind enough that even empty glasses feel full. So as today translates into goodbyes and good nights, I know her pouring elbow to be outpouring, reflected into hugs, and now held iPad over video calls. And my cousins and I pass along the recipe amongst each other in her own handwriting. And we sat on a beach this summer, discussing the first sips not made by her. And we all agreed, even though it wasn't quite the same, that nostalgia sure does taste sweet. Thank you so much for sitting through a poetry session with me. I hope it was great. And shout out to y'all for coming to such a great conference and being a part of this amazing work. The power of words, right? I'm so truly honored to have the gift of poetry and be able to not just share my story, but help to shape the arts and culture scene in Toronto. If you're interested in learning more about me or learning more about that work, my Instagram is Shelly M. Grace, or my website is just shellygrace.com. But I am leaving you in some very, very good hands and some very gentle stanzas and a soothing voice with Pamela. So thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the conference.
Hi there. Gee, I don't know what to say except how amazing it is that we leave, that I leave, because I'm a poet primarily. I leave poetry in the hands of people like Shelly Grace. It's a real pleasure to share this final act with her. And I want to just say a couple of things. I'm not going to be able to read anything that I plan to read, um, because well, there's like I don't know if the people who put us together know that I come from the place that Shelley has just sort of talked about. I'm Jamaican. That's me. That's the whole of me. Um, and I hate to tell Shelley Grace that I am not an old lady with a gentle voice. I am an old lady with a terrible voice. So well, I don't know. I'm really, really confused now because I have absolutely no idea how I can possibly go ahead and read what I plan to read. Maybe I'll read bits and pieces, but for Shelley Grace, an island woman like me, she has just discovered, I'm going to read from this book, which is called A Fierce Green Place, which is how I think of our island, Shelley Grace, that you and I share. I'm going to read Island Woman, which is, it's not the title poem of this collection. This is a collection of all my poetry, selections from all my poetry since I ever began to write. So except for one book, bits and pieces of the 8 books that I've written are in A Fierce Green Place. So not at all reading what I plan to read on time very carefully. Here I go with Island Woman for Shelley Grace and for all the women who come from my place and all the women who come from islands, including that wonderful island, Newfoundland, which has wonderful connections with Jamaica. I don't know if Shelley Grace knows that. But anyway, Island Woman. I am a woman of a fierce green place. My brows are mountains. Tendrils of winding rivers coil through my hair, short, muddy black, with rapids and meanders. You may drink at the springs of my eyes. I sing many songs. I am silent only when the winds turn upon me. Sometimes for fear, I shiver. Winds rumble in my belly, blow hot, blow cool. Paths vain, my hands well trod. Each year, after the rains, I blossom. Kingdoms grow in my dark womb. I am really pleased to see so many women in charge of, if you want, but that's a bad way of putting it. Let's put it the way I like to think of it, as part of a community of people who are, as Shelly Grace says, and as I've always said in the classrooms that once upon a time I went into more frequently, it's so important to find your own voice. And having found your voice, whether you're a poet or a writer or whoever, to encourage other people to find their voices. I think, well, sometimes I say that the only thing that you have is your voice. Even if you are dumb, you have a voice. It's just a matter of finding it and hearing it and being careful with it and encouraging other people to find their voices. And then we start to listen to each other, and then amazing things begin to happen. I want to think that that is what this conference was in many ways about, how all of us in all our possible communities reach out to, listen to, talk to, and perhaps more importantly, listen to one another. Shelley Grace talked about dystopias and Octavia Butler, and I want to big up a wonderful, wonderful speculative fiction writer whom I've known since she was 4 years old. Her name is Nalo Hopkinson. She is, Google her, read some of what she has written. She's amazing. Okay, so I want to thank folks for asking me to be here. I think it's been a wonderful, wonderful meeting. I've enjoyed the panels that I have managed to listen to. I've enjoyed the performances. A wonderful woman named Asia speaking from Africa, from Ghana. And I don't know if Shelley Grace knows whether she's Ashanti or not. I think I'm Ashanti. The Ashanti people come from Ghana, which is why I can't be a gentle poet. I'm an awful, noisy, terrible, perverse woman. So anyway, maybe I should read some of my awful, noisy, terrible, perverse work for you. I really am not at all reading what I planned, and so very carefully rehearsed. But okay, so let's see what's noisy and awful that I can read for you to persuade Shelley Grace that I am not the nice, gentle lady that she thought she was handing over to. Okay. A little politics, maybe. This is called Protest Poem. An ache is in a man. Towns do not ache, nor ghettos fester. The ravening gnaws at bellies, 1-1. Hurt is personal. On the corner, again and again, see me sit with my needle and spoon. See me puffing my spliff. See me splitting my mind. See me, teenager, dead from the blows of your words that baptize me. According to Lenin and Marx, you are no one. No one. Blessed be the proletariat, whom we must mobilize, we must motivate, we must liberate, we must educate to a new political awareness. Is the old chattel thing, the same old slavery business. But this time the boss look more like we, and him does be smarter. Not a damn soul going mobilize my ass to Ross. Them joking. Any fool can read Das Kapital. What is that to the poor? We, the people, propose the abolition of you and us. We propose an acknowledgement of our persons and an alliance of poverty. We propose to share the little that breeds on these Caribbean Antilles, one mango to one mouth. We propose to speak your language, but not abandon ours. We insist that you understand that you do not understand us. You may begin by not shouting. We are tired of noise. On the corner again and again, see me stand with my pride and my children, my quiverful lot, my portion of life. See me labor and wait. See me plan and scratch dust for a yam root, a corn, belly full. See me. Look, I am here. I am here. I am here. That's a very old poem. And I guess out of my context, which is from a long, long time ago, but I think it says, I would like to think that it says what maybe, oh, I don't know, perhaps 50 years later, we're still talking about, which is, an acknowledgement of our persons, all our persons, and that all to stretch out as wide as it can be to include all the voices. Try to say a little bit about this in answering the questions that I was asked to answer before the conference. I think that that Maya has said that they're somewhere online. I really want to say thanks to the organizers, to Humber, for asking me to be here, and to Shelly Grace, whom I am really, I think I'm probably the oldest person who has been on here. Certainly, I think the oldest performing person. So I accept my role as elder. As I've said, I am so glad to hand it over to such remarkably accomplished persons to celebrate the fact that so many of us are women. I think I have always said, that the problem with the world is that the half of us that is the part of us that is, I guess, what we call woman, however we see that womanness, we really haven't had a place at the table, and I think that that's an important part of the being of human beings that has been missing. So I have a feeling that my time is almost up. As I say, I haven't read one scrap of what I started out reading. I was going to read to you from a wonderful book which has just come out. This is called The Book of Joseph. Can you see it? Yeah. It's the first book in a trilogy. The last book I wrote, I said I was perverse. I am. I wrote a trilogy about the life of Jesus. I wrote it backways, as we would say in Jamaica. I write it backways. And the Book of Joseph is the story of the life of Jesus from the point of view of his foster father. And then after that book comes the Book of Mary, which is the story of the life of Jesus from the point of view of his mother. And then The Man, which is the story of the crucifixion of Jesus. I am not aiming to convert anybody by telling the story. I am very fond of Jesus because he disturbed his neighbors. He was a revolutionary. He came to shake up what Kamal Brathwaite has called the status quo. And I think he did a good job of it. And these stories I tell his story because it's a great story. I tell it in Jamaican language because, Jamaican language, I think for me, is an extraordinary literary medium. I find myself writing it in it more and more. I wish for Shelly Grace the joy of learning that language. And I don't know how close I am to having to wind up. Maybe I will read you one poem, one of the poems that I prepared to read from the Book of Joseph. It's a little, if you want flirtation, I invent for Joseph. Basically, what I do is I invent his story. A lot of the Book of Mary, and certainly The Man, takes its origin, if you want. The Bible stories are the source of those two books, but not entirely, because, for instance, I invent stories, poems to fill the spaces that are not filled in the New Testament, in the Gospels. But the book of Joseph gave me the opportunity of inventing a first wife for Joseph. I like her. She's called Deborah, and it's a sweet story, but it's a sad story because she doesn't have good luck with babies. For every baby that she has, she loses one. And anyway, I won't tell you the whole story. I just want to read you this little exchange between Joseph and herself, because he gets very upset. He really loves her, and he gets very upset when she keeps losing babies. And so he says to her, well, this is what he says to her. Deb's bad luck with born in baby never change. When she lose her next one after Sarah, me beg her, hold up little bit. Hold up? But Joe, it's not me to hold up. Is you or is me doing the holding down here? I do not recall ever holding you down, Debs. Seem to me we did agree on any holding betwixt you and me. Talk truth. Me love have you in me belly, Joe. And she laughed like water jumping down the Sar Falls. She could be bad behaved when she choose, my Debbie. But Joseph, my spouse, must I now understand you telling me you desire a next plan? I am telling you, Debs, your body don't make from rock stone. Me love loving you more than life, but me rather not kill you with making baby. Joe, me tell you enough time. Me rather dead fat with a baby than live with a man me can't sweet with loving. And Debs pushed me down flat. Okay, so that's one of the poems that I had planned to read from the book of Joseph, showing you again, so you can go and buy it. The retelling of those stories in Jamaican language was I think it's probably the most important thing I have done as a poet. Nobody else has done that, which is tell sacred, if you want, sacred for many people, stories in Jamaican language. And we now have a translation of the Gospels, the Jamaican New Testament. But in this millennium, I thought these problems were solved in the middle of the last one, but people still think that apparently God can't speak patois, you know? Yeah, him can't speak patois, or she can't speak patois. Him, her, can't speak patois. Well, that's absurd, you know, like, hello. So that has been really exciting for me. And just the whole business of using Jamaican language. Shelly Grace, make sure you learn it. It's, as I've said, it's an amazing language for me. And it gives me stories, it gives me poems. I write for children, I write for adults. I haven't really introduced myself properly. But Google me, my name is there, Pamela Mordecai. I've been around for a long time. I have written, mostly I consider that I'm a poet, but I have written a novel, I've written short stories, I've written many textbooks. I tell children from the, or big people from the Caribbean, sorry, and picnic too. But big people, if you are 50 and younger, you have probably used a textbook that I have had a part in making. Anyway, I think it is time for me to wind up. Thank you very much again to Humber. Thanks so much to all the people, to the audience who has certainly borne with me as I stumbled through this, and to all the people who have joined us, to all the people backstage, Maya, everybody else, and to the wonderful young people who have performed here, as I say, Asia, talking from Africa about her practice, Azalea this morning, sharing her dances. It has been a pleasure for me to be here, and thanks very much. And I know that there has been, that this has been the opportunity for people to offer insights and their experiences, very considerable in so many cases. And I have been glad to be here. And I think that's enough from me. Thank you very much for being here. And bye-bye. Take care.